And this is my Anthurium Magnificum. This is literally the biggest leaf plant in this plant loving house. If it was a much smaller root system, it's a mission to get sphagnum moss off of roots. That's why you really need to think long and hard. Oh, just snapped a root, sorry. Pull, and if they don't come off easily, they are going to survive. But if you do come across, you just pull and it comes off quite easily. Those are ones that is not going to make it in the semi-hydro transfer. They are Goeiemorgen, goeiemiddag, goeienaand. Whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening where you are, it's always a good time to watch some plant YouTube. My name is Shanae, and it's new here, new hair, new me, new plants. Not today. Today we are going to look at the plants that have grown quite big in this plant loving house, and we are going to do some plant maintenance on those ones. So we have the blue Magnificum as well as a CrystalMag that is still in soil, and those ones we are going to do a little bit of a transition to semi-hydro. There is two other plants, the dark Fagetii as well as my Clarinervium, that is also quite large, that is still in soil. Those ones we're not going to do today because they are working on some new leaves. So we don't want to disturb them right now, but next time we'll definitely do a repot and a transition to semi-hydro on those ones. We are also going to look at the King of Spades hybrid that I have, as well as the Warwickwianum. Those ones have outgrown their pots, as well as the stem is so high. It is higher than the pot and higher than the extension that I have on them. So they definitely need a chop and prop, and we're going to see if they need a bigger pot as well. So that is going to be interesting. We also have my Magnificum cross with Papillolaminum, as well as the Fagetii silver cross with the dark Fagetii that is in pots that I absolutely don't like. So those ones we are also going to give them a little bit of a new pot so that they can also grow big and beautiful. All of these plants have been giving me some sort of sign that they need some plant maintenance, but we'll go through it as we go through the video. So we do have a lot to cover today, so let's get into today's video. The first maintenance that we are going to be starting with is the transition from soil to semi-hydro. The very first plant that we are going to be looking at is the Anthurium Magnificum. And this is my Anthurium Magnificum. This is literally the biggest leaf plant in this plant loving house. The one on the left, I just measured, and it measures about 70 centimeters long from the top of the lobes until the tip of the leaf, and then across it's about 50 centimeters. So quite large, even compared to me. It's probably like half of my size almost. Surprisingly, this one is the newest leaf, and this one is already hardened off, and that's why I decided to repot it, because I didn't want to interfere with any new leaves like I just mentioned in the intro. So this is a good indication that your plant needs a repot. If it is producing leaves that is much smaller than the previous ones, then it is definitely time for a repot. Looking at the roots, it is already going crazy. This is the original pot that it came in, and the stem definitely did not exceed this pot at the time. But the stem has grown, and I actually put this, I think it was a Coca-Cola bottle, on top as a means to extend the pot, and the roots, as you can see, have been going crazy. So the stem has also exceeded this extension that I made, so it's definitely time for a chop, because I don't even have a pot that is going to be as long as what this one needs. So I think it's a good time to do the chop. And yeah, so let's get this out of the substrate. As you can see, there is almost no substrate left in this pot. There is a whole lot of roots even going from the bottom, and all of them are quite white, so it is quite healthy. So let's get this plant unpotted. All right, I got into a little bit more of a comfortable position, so let's get unpotting of this plant. So like you see, I used 2 liter cool drink bottles or soft drink bottles, and it worked for this plant. So I would definitely encourage you, if you don't let money be an excuse for you to not do your plant maintenance, you can literally use anything that you have to achieve what you want to achieve. If you don't have money for those fancy extensions, look at a 2-liter bottle. I've literally used 2, and I have just cut it on the one side and then just turned it around. I use sellotape to just keep it together onto the pot. So yeah, good tip that you can also use. This one I am regretting because I did put sphagnum moss on it. It was supposed to be a short-term solution, but as you can see, it was in here for quite a couple of months. Surprisingly, actually coming off quite easily from the roots. So yeah, really nice. Really, really good. I think because the roots are quite large already, I think that's why it is a little bit easier. If it was a much smaller root system, it's a mission to get sphagnum moss off of roots. That's why you really need to think long and hard. Oh, just snapped a root, sorry. But there is a lot, so I think we should be fine. Like I said, sphagnum moss is a good propagation method. Roots really, really like sphagnum moss, but roots like other things as well. So it's really up to you to decide what it is that you want to put your plants in. And if you would want to go through this stress of a moss untangling of the roots. So it's definitely a good method. Like I said, roots really like sphagnum moss, and they are able to grow so nicely in it, but it's just a mission to take the sphagnum moss off. So really something to consider if you want to grow your plants in sphagnum moss for a long period of time. I generally would not recommend it, but you do what is best for you. There is quite a couple of alternatives. You can use soil. You can use, like I use, my pond mix. This sphagnum moss actually looks so good. I think I will most definitely reuse it again. And I love these roots. So I think the chop on this plant is, the plant is probably not going to skip a beat, I think. Alright, so I think all of the sphagnum moss is pretty much off that I wanted to get off. So now it is to take it out of this 2-year-old soil and pot that it is in. So let's see if we can do this easily. Not Alright, so I think for the most part the root system has been untangled and a lot of the soil are removed. You can of course see that it is still quite dirty. So I'm going to go outside and use my high pressure hose to hose this plant's roots so that I can see exactly what I'm working with. But for the most part, it doesn't look like there is a lot of rot. I think maybe in the middle there might be quite a few roots that have rotted, but for the most part it looks good. And I think this is the one reason why your plants will grow big and beautiful. Before you want to focus on big leaves or a plant to flower, focus on the roots, and then the plant will reward you with some beautiful foliage and some flowers, of course. So yeah, looking quite good. So let me just show you in here. I actually did quite a good job in terms of making sure that I don't take off any good roots. So let me go outside, clean the roots, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so we are back from the outside, and I literally just cleaned the roots. It looks so good. There is probably still some places where there is soil on, but I think it's a little bit difficult because there's so many roots. I think I'm going to cut it and then do a proper clean of the roots, because then I think I'll be able to get in between the roots much easier. That way they'll just be a little bit more manageable. So definitely going to cut this plant, and I can already see a couple of growth points. So it's definitely going to do okay. It's all about finding the right places that I want to cut. So here is where the stem ends, and I just measured it. It's about 22 centimeters. So a cut would definitely do it quite well. I think this can probably take a couple of cuts. I think I'm going to get about 3, maybe 4 out of it. Don't want to be too greedy. I do want the plant to still continue to grow nicely, so I don't want to cut it too aggressively. It's the beginning of the year. Why not, right? I think at the end of the year, it's going to be so interesting to see how this plant or plants go. All right, so the first cutting has been made. And here it is. It has quite a large root system, but the stem is not quite large. So yeah, we're going to see how much of this root system we actually keep for this small little cutting. But we'll deal with that in a second. I did accidentally cut one of the roots. All right. Plant has more than enough roots. I don't think that should be quite a big issue. Let me see where the next cutting is going to be. Just want to make sure that there is more than enough roots for it. Alright, so there is cutting number 2. Stem is a little bit short, but might have just cut the active growth point off, but there's definitely some others. So that is cutting number 2. We still have this left. I think it's still too large, so I'm going to do one more cutting. It's so difficult because these roots are actually quite close to each other, so it's a little bit tough to not cut them accidentally. Yay! So that is cutting number 3. And then we have this one. Roots. Looks okay. Looks decent. It's a little bit less than what I thought I would get, but let's see how it goes. If it's not able to hold onto the big leaf, it is probably going to shed it, but yeah, hopefully not, because I am waiting for the flower on that leaf. But okay, let me clean them. Hopefully while I clean them off properly, or clean the roots properly, I am going to allow enough time for the cuttings to also callus over and eventually not cause any rot to the stem. But I'm pretty happy. Hopefully this cut is also going to activate that growth point that I mentioned earlier. But let's see, we have 4 cuttings and roots that we're going to have to clean. So let me quickly go ahead and do that. So I have shown this process before, but I literally just use my finger and I scrape off the dirt or any of the moss that is in there. So I have mainly cleaned the roots by just using my fingernail, but it is quite difficult to do because there's quite a bit of dirt that still remains on my fingernails. So I think I am going to wait until it is completely calloused. It kind of looks quite good, but I can still feel some wet or some moist on it. So I'm going to give it a couple of hours, maybe an hour or so. We'll move on to the next plant that we are going to do. But in the meantime, I did take off some of the secondary roots, or most of the secondary roots, that is not going to survive in the semi-hydro transfer. And like I mentioned before, what I normally do to see if the secondary roots are going to survive, I literally just give them a pull, and if they don't come off easily, they're going to survive. But if you do come across, you just pull and it comes off quite easily, those are ones that is not going to make it in semi-hydro transfer. They are quickly going to be rotting off, and I prefer to take it off before I do the transfer so that I don't experience rot within the pot, or as much as what I guess leaving them in there would, and then eventually repotting it again. So these ones I'm going to sit aside, and then we're going to wait till they are calloused. We're going to do the CrystalMag in the meantime, and hopefully when that is done, these ones should be calloused over, and then we can repot pretty much all of them. So let's see how these ones go. So here is the CrystalMag. It is also quite a large plant, and it holds on to quite a lot of leaves, but as you can see here, the stem is not very high above the soil. I did repot this plant before, so that's why it looks a little bit better than the previous one. So here, I think the plant is showing me some stress. Like you would see on these leaves, there's a lot of browning, as well as on this one. You can see the edges is completely yellowing off, and it doesn't really get better. This one is understandable because it is the last one, so it's bound to go very soon. So we can already get rid of that. Essentially what I want to do is take this out of the substrate. It has been good to the plant for the most part, but I think because it has this little bit of stress, I think it's time. This plant used to give me a new leaf very frequently. So as soon as one hardens off, one would come in. So this hasn't been doing that for, I would say, about 2 or 3 months or so. So that also gives me an indication that this plant is kind of figuring itself out. It has been pollinated a couple of times, so I think that also contributes to the fact that the plant is taking its time to get to good health. But I think it's a perfect time then to do the repot of this one then, and the transition. So yeah, at the bottom there is also quite a bit of roots in the reservoir, but I think it should be fine. So let's take it out of this pot. Alright, so I think that is the most that I can get it clean. There is quite a lot of rot in here. So even though the root system looks quite good, there is a lot of dry rot. So it looks like the roots have dried out, and then I watered and it took up too much of the water at the time and then killed off that roots. They do look like they are quite white, and they look like they are holding on to quite a bit of water, but you can definitely see that they are dead. Let me go and clean this off, but it looks like it's more the secondary roots and not so much the primary roots, which is going to be perfectly fine for the semi-hydro repot, because I generally take off the secondary roots. That doesn't look like it's going to make it. So let me quickly go and do that, and then we'll be back to see if we need to chop or not. Alright, so I cleaned off most of the substrate, but you can definitely see that there is still a lot of rotten roots on here that I would need to clean. But like the previous one, I think it's going to be much better to cut the plant first, and then it's going to be easier to get in between all of the roots. So this one doesn't have as long as a stem as the previous one. I think this is probably about 12 centimeters or so. So I think I'll only do one cutting because I do want the plant to still continue to be large. I probably will get rid of this leaf, not because I don't think that the root system is not going to be able to hold it up, but just because it looks quite ugly. And yeah, so let's do that one cutting real quick, and then it'll cut us over while we are taking off the dead roots as well. All right, so like I said, I'm not going to do an aggressive cut because I do want the top to be quite good. Here we go, cutting one and the top cutting. So like you see, still a lot of good roots on here, and this one also has some good roots. Stem is not very long, but definitely more than enough to grow a nice plant. So let me quickly go and take off all of these rotten secondary roots and secondary roots that probably won't make it. Alright, so I cleaned the roots of both of the plants and we are ready to repot. So these ones I am going to put in these really big planters that I got from Timo, and they are self-watering. They have a wick, so we are going to use that too. And I'm going to put it in a chunky pond mix. So as you can see over here, it is much chunkier with quite large liquid balls in there. And I got this from Tangled Roots. So I cleaned it last night. I also let it in some water and also put some CalMag in the water. So it kind of absorbs some of the nutrients because, as you guys know, I always say with these kind of transfers, the first week or two, I don't water until the substrate is completely dried out. And then for the first, I would say 3 to 4 weeks, I would water the plant as if it is in soil and slowly build up the reservoir. After that time, I would then use a reservoir where we can wick up the water. So now I'm just going to do the repot. Normally I do a layer of lacquer at the bottom, but seeing that this is chunky mix and it already has quite a lot of lacquer in it, I don't think that that is really needed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a layer of lacquer and then put the plant in here, fill it up, and we should be good to go. So let's get going. So first we are just going to put the wick in the basket and just like that. It's a little bit of a short wick, but I actually don't have something else, so I'll keep it for now, and if it really becomes a problem, like it's not wicking up the water as I'm expecting, then I probably would have to repot the plant and do a wick that is a little bit longer, that can go up to a little bit higher than what it is right now. So let's go ahead and put a layer of the substrate and then put the plant. I'm first going to do the blue Magnificum and then I'll do the CrystalMag as well. So I think this is fine. We'll keep it at this level. Put the plant in and then fill up with the pond around the roots. I think this level is a little bit more than what I normally do, but I think those roots are quite established. They are quite large. I think they need a little bit more space to travel down into the pot. So let's go ahead and put the plant in and fill up around the roots. Alright, so first one is all potted up. As you can see, it is quite stable. The roots are secured by the pond. If it wasn't, then the plant wouldn't have stood up straight like this. So we are done. I am just going to run some water over the top and then put this one in high humidity so that it can kind of recover and set it up for success. So first one is done. Let's do the exact same for the CrystalMag. Alright, so our CrystalMag is also all potted up and ready for some water and to be put into high humidity so that it can recover, grow some new beautiful roots, and yeah, continue growing big and beautiful. So let me quickly go and do that, and then I'll be back to do the rest. All right, so the rest of the cuttings, this is the CrystalMag. I am going to pot this one up, and then the bigger chunk of the blue mag I'm going to also pot up in pon, and I've decided these two I am going to try and grow in ambient. These two blue mag, I am highly likely going to sell these if the growth points do activate and there are some new leaves. I'm going to sell these. So I think I'm going to put these in soil because I think a lot more people grow in soil than in semi-hydro. So I think that is the plan. I'm going to do this potting up off camera just because you've already seen what the potting up of the pond looks like, and yeah, no different to the soil ones. So I think that is that for those two big plants that went from soil to semi-hydro. All right, so the cuttings, I have decided to keep the bud cut of the CrystalMag as well as the bigger chunk of the blue Magnificum. So these ones I have just potted up in the pon mix because I do want to keep them, of course, in pon. That is my preferred way of growing my plants. I initially wanted to put these ones in a prop box so that they can get high humidity and they can kind of grow quite nicely, but I've decided against that. I've decided these ones are going straight onto the living room shelf and they are going to start growing just like that in the ambient conditions. And the reason for that is I actually did an experiment probably in the last 2 months or so where I cut my black beachy eye and I cut it in 3 parts. The top cutting I put in pon and I put that one in one of my grow tents. The middle part I also put in pon, put it in the other grow tent, and then the last one I decided to put that straight into ambient in my living room as well. So I just wanted to see whether it is going to work. Like I say, I already have 2 cuttings and yeah, I had absolutely nothing to lose. I really don't like prop boxes especially in my living room. I think it's a space that I share with others, and yeah, I just feel like it becomes a little bit more cluttered. There's just not enough space in my living room for a prop box, so I would rather not have it. I can probably make some space if I really wanted to, but I don't really want to. So actually the results of that is looking quite good. The top cutting that was also in the grow tent, that one is, the growth point is showing that it's a new leaf is coming, and then the middle cutting, that one has also activated growth point and is busy working on a leaf, and then the one in ambient is doing the exact same thing. It has activated a growth point and it is starting to work on a new leaf. A lot of people say that high humidity is really good for plants, and I generally think that as well. But that experiment actually made me think that maybe it is better if they start off like this, where they have no growth point and they have a greater chance of not having that initial shock when it goes from high humidity to ambient conditions. Maybe this is a better way. I'm just glad at this point in time that ambient conditions for cutting actually works quite okay as well. So that is what I'm going to do with these ones. These two I haven't potted up yet. I am going to pot it up just now. But these ones I've decided I am probably going to put up for sale. So I am going to put these ones in soil as opposed to semi-hydro. I think most people use Aero Chunky Mix. So I think to save people from having to transfer their plant from a chunky pond mix to a soil mix that they are used to, I think it's going to be better if I put these ones in soil from the beginning. So yeah, I think that is what I'm going to do. So these are two blue Magnificums, and hopefully two of you might buy these ones once it is ready. So I'm going to keep it here, of course, for a while, see when the growth point activates and whether the plant is quite healthy, and then I'll put it up on my website for sale, and that is just www.plantlovinghouse.co.za. So but I will make either announcement here or on Instagram when these ones are going to be ready to go up for sale. But yeah, this is going to be so exciting. I know that there's a lot of people that really want this plant. So yeah, it's going to be exciting to share these ones. But yeah, let me quickly go and pot these ones up and get them ready for maybe one of you or two of you. Then I will be back real soon with the next maintenance activity. The maintenance of those two plants took a little bit too long, so I've decided to rather do a part 2 and do that maintenance on Wednesday. So that is going to be it for today. I hope that you managed to get some of your plant maintenance done as well, and I hope that you enjoyed my company. I am looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Have a lekker rest of your day. Bye bye.